Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
So you guys have sent in a ton of stuff on AI and its impact on the job market. It's a lot to sift through, right?
Yeah, it really is. There's so much out there.
That's why we're here to break it all down for you, help you get to the heart of it without, getting lost in the weeds.
Right. The main thing is we're seeing these predictions about major shifts, like maybe even up to 60% of jobs in developed economies getting totally transformed by AI, either augmented or in some cases, completely replaced.
Yeah, that's a huge number. It can feel kind of overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's what you guys told us you wanted to understand, like how to make sense of it all without getting totally freaked out.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to tackle that for you head on. We'll look at some historical parallels, like what happened during past industrial revolutions.
Right, and then we'll get into this whole debate among experts about whether this time it's different with AI. Is it just another tech disruption or something way bigger? And then, to kind of wrap our heads around all of this, we'll look at a framework for understanding the different ways AI is actually innovating. So, ready to dive in?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think a good place to start, honestly, is by looking back a bit. The stuff you sent in really highlighted some, important lessons from those earlier industrial revolutions. It gives us this vital context to understand the potential scale and the nature of the changes that AI might bring.
Totally. So, like, think about the first industrial revolution back in the early 19th century. It was all about mechanization. And it hit, like, the textile industry super hard. Remember those stories about the
Oh,
Luddites?
yeah, the guy's named after Ned Ludd.
Yeah.
They were literally fighting against these machines that were, threatening their entire way of life.
And the thing is, for them, it wasn't just about, some random fear of new technology.
No, not at all. These were, highly skilled artisans, people whose entire lives revolved around their craft. And suddenly, these machines were making their expertise seem, less valuable.
Yeah, it's like their skills were being devalued overnight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were fighting to protect that, to protect their livelihoods.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about breaking stuff. It was about, preserving their way of life, their identity almost.
And sadly, at least in the short term, they didn't succeed. Mass production just kind of took over.
Yeah. And a lot of those skilled artisans ended up, displaced and facing real poverty. It was a super tough period for those communities, those families who were directly hit by that change.
So for you listening, the takeaway here isn't just about like some guys smashing machines. It's about that deep sense of loss and upheaval that happens when, skills that were once so valued suddenly become less relevant. And that's something like we really need to think about with AI. It's a real parallel,
Yeah, absolutely. But, we view that a bit. We also see this bigger picture, like the sources pointed out. This mechanization also led to a huge increase in productivity.
Right. And ultimately, more jobs were created overall, even though that initial transition was, really rough for a lot of people. It kind of laid the groundwork for the modern economy as we know it.
Right. And then we get to the second industrial revolution in the early 20th century. Electricity, steel, even more mass production. It created millions of jobs, totally transformed manufacturing on a global scale.
And that's when things really started changing for everyone, not just, specific industries like textiles.
Yeah. And this wave, too, it created winners and losers. Factory work offered opportunities for tons of people, but it also continued this trend of, diminishing the value of those traditional crafts.
So it wasn't just about who could make the best product anymore, but who could, work most efficiently in this new industrial system.
Yeah. The people who really thrived in this era were engineers, managers, and the workers in these booming industries, cars, chemicals. But artisans, agricultural workers, they often struggle to find their place.
And then we hit the third industrial revolution, mid-20th century onwards. It's the one we're still in, really, driven by the internet and all those digital technologies.
Right, reshaping industries again. It created all these high-paying jobs in software development, but it also wiped out a lot of those middle-skilled clerical roles.
So this time, it wasn't just about physical labor being replaced. It was like knowledge workers starting to feel the pressure of automation.
Exactly. And that digitalization, it was like a double-edged sword for a lot of people. If you had the right digital skills, great. But if you couldn't adapt to that new world, it meant fewer opportunities, declining wages, and this growing gap between, the highest and lowest earners.
But here's something that really jumped out at me from all the stuff you sent in. Throughout all three of these massive shifts, overall employment rates actually stayed pretty stable.
Oh, yeah, that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Jobs didn't just vanish into thin air. They kind of shifted from one sector to another.
Right. Societies found ways to adapt. New industries popped up, and they absorbed some of the workers who were displaced. But, and this is a big but, the sources also showed that, like, wage inequality consistently increased with each of these technological jumps.
Yeah. Some people and skill sets thrive, others fall behind. It's this constant pattern.
And that brings us to today, the age of AI. And the stuff you sent in, it really suggests that while history gives us some like important clues about adaptation and job shifts, this time around, things might be different. And that's what leads us to this whole debate we're seeing right now.
Yeah, what's fascinating is there's this real divide even among like the top AI researchers. You've got the we've seen it before camp. They see AI as just the latest in this long line of, disruptive technologies.
Right, the ones that ultimately lead to more jobs and economic growth.
Exactly. They acknowledge the initial displacement for sure, but they also believe that, new industries and opportunities will emerge. Think of folks like Jan LeCun or Bill Gates. They tend to be more on the optimistic side.
And then you've got the this time it's different camp. Their argument is that AI is fundamentally different because it's not just, changing how industries work, it's potentially replacing individual roles in a way we've never seen before.
It's like AI is replicating human skills directly, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Right, and that's what might be freaking some people out. The idea of human skills becoming less valuable, it's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, and this camp, they've got some heavy hitters too. Like Jeffrey Hinton, he actually left Google, right? And he's been pretty vocal about the potential risks and how fast AI is developing.
Yoshua Bengio is another one who shares those concerns. And then you've got Elon Musk. He's always talking about how AI could cause massive societal disruption.
Right. And this time it's different argument is something to take seriously. The idea that we're not just talking about industries changing, but individual schools becoming obsolete, that's a new challenge.
Definitely. And in the stuff you sent in, there was this guy, Huy Nguyen Trieu, who makes a really interesting point about why this time might actually be different. He focuses on how AI spreads its impact.
Oh, yeah. He says that in the past, new tech usually reshaped whole industries first.
Right, like with the Luddites and the textile industry.
Exactly. And then the impact would ripple out to workers. Some jobs were lost, but over time, new industries would emerge. AI, though, it can directly target specific tasks, even individual roles within existing industries.
So the industry itself might still be there, but it's operating with like way fewer humans.
Right. And the examples they give, like customer service, translators, even the use of AI-generated fashion models, it really illustrates that point.
Yeah, it's not about machines replacing factories anymore. It's about algorithms replacing like individual skills and expertise.
Exactly. And what's crucial here is that AI isn't just making our existing tools better, it's literally substituting human expertise. This, AI-fication of specific tasks and roles, it challenges the value of human skills in a way that those earlier tech shifts didn't. And the speed at which this is happening, it's just mind-blowing.
So, okay, we've got this historical context. We've got this like pretty intense debate about whether AI is going to follow past patterns or be something completely new. But how do we actually make sense of all the different ways AI might impact us? The sources mentioned a framework for this, right?
Yeah, they talk about the CDE innovation prism. It's a really useful way to categorize how AI is innovating and how those innovations might, shake things up in the job market. CDE stands for cheaper, better, faster, different, and enhancing.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. Cheaper, better, faster. That one seems pretty straightforward, right? Like
Fair.
AI being used to basically do things more efficiently and save money.
Exactly. It's about like direct competition with human labor. AI offering alternatives that are, cheaper, faster, often more accurate for certain tasks. Think of those customer service chatbots, AI-powered data entry systems, things like that.
Yeah, that's the stuff that probably makes people the most nervous, right? Like robots taking our jobs.
It's definitely where we see the most immediate potential for job displacement. And the example they give with Mango, the clothing company, using AI to create entire marketing campaigns without photographers or models, that really brings it home.
It's like, yeah, it saves the company money, but what about the people who used to do those jobs?
Exactly. That's the trade-off with this type of AI innovation. Great for efficiency, but potentially tough on workers.
Okay, so what about enhancing? This one sounds more, I don't know, positive, like AI working with us instead of against us.
Right. It's about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them.
Yeah.
In this scenario, AI is a tool that makes your job easier, faster, more efficient.
So, like, instead of AI taking over customer service entirely, it's more about AI helping customer service reps be more effective.
Exactly. The sources talk about GitHub Copilot. It helps developers write code more efficiently. It's like having an AI assistant that boosts your productivity.
And they also mention how AI is being used to help consultants analyze huge amounts of data so they can deliver better insights. It's about taking care of the, tedious data-heavy stuff so humans can focus on the bigger picture.
Right. The key takeaway for enhancing is that AI is working with people to amplify their skills.
Got it. Okay, and finally we have different. This one sounds like the most unpredictable, the most potentially transformative.
Oh, yeah. It's about AI reshaping the job market in ways we haven't even, fully imagined yet. It goes way beyond just making existing stuff better or cheaper.
They give some pretty wild examples, like AlphaFold 2. It's this AI that's revolutionizing protein folding and could lead to all sorts of new drug discoveries. Or self-driving cars, that's a whole other level of disruption.
All right, those are massive shifts. And that's where the uncertainty comes in. These different innovations, they could lead to amazing new industries and jobs, but they could also disrupt existing ones in ways we can't even predict.
So it's both exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Exactly. We might see job displacement in some areas, but also the emergence of entirely new roles and ways of working with AI.
Okay, so understanding the CDE innovation prism, it gives us a framework for thinking about AI's impact, right? Instead of just seeing it as this, like, big, scary, undefined thing.
Precisely. It helps us anticipate different types of disruption and opportunity, which is crucial as we, prepare for this future of work.
And speaking of preparing for the future, one thing the sources really emphasized was the speed at which all this is happening and the need for us to be proactive, like we can't just wait and see what happens.
Right. Especially when you compare it to like our inaction on things like climate change warnings.
We can't afford to make the same mistakes again.
Definitely not. AI is moving fast, and the potential consequences for the job market and society as a whole, they're huge. The sources talk about AI's potential to solve major global challenges, but also this very real risk that it could exacerbate inequality if we don't manage its development carefully.
Yeah, that idea that AI could actually widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots, that's a serious concern.
Absolutely. It comes down to a choice, really. Do we passively accept a future where wealth and power become even more concentrated? Or do we actively try to shape AI's development so that it benefits everyone?
And to do that, it's going to take action from all sides, right? Policymakers need to step up with regulations, businesses need to invest in human AI collaboration and reskilling initiatives, and we as individuals, we need to prepare ourselves too.
Right, and that's where this idea of becoming a supercharged professional comes in. It's not about trying to outcompete AI, because that's probably a losing battle. It's about learning to work alongside it, to leverage its power, to boost your own skills and expertise.
So it's like instead of being afraid of AI replacing us, we figure out how to use it to make us even better at what we do.
Exactly. And the sources, they lay out a few key steps for doing that.
Okay, like what?
Well, first of all, focus on your domain expertise. Your deep knowledge of your field, that becomes even more valuable in an AI-driven world because it allows you to strategically apply AI to solve specific problems within your area.
So it's not about becoming an AI expert, it's about being an expert in your field and knowing how to use AI as a tool.
Exactly. And never stop learning.
Sure.
Stay curious, keep updating your skills.
Right. And the second step is what they call AI literacy.
Yeah, you don't need to become a programmer or anything, but you do need to understand how to use the AI tools that are relevant to your work, whether it's AI for marketing data analysis, for diagnostics in healthcare, or for optimizing designs in engineering. You got to get comfortable with these tools.
So like if I'm a marketer, I don't need to know how to build an AI, but I do need to know how to use one to, analyze my campaign data more effectively.
Exactly. And that frees up your time and energy to focus on the more creative, strategic stuff.
Got it. So domain expertise, AI literacy. What else?
The third thing is really about adopting a lifelong learning mindset. Things are changing so fast with AI that you got to be adaptable, always willing to learn new things, explore new tools, attend workshops, connect with people who are working with AI.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the final piece is about Blending your human skills with AI's efficiency.
Right, those uniquely human skills, creativity, problem solving, communication, emotional intelligence, they're still incredibly valuable. And when you combine those with AI's analytical power, you become super effective.
It's like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Cool.
So becoming a supercharged professional, it's really about embracing this mindset of partnership with AI, seeing it as a tool to help you thrive, not something to be scared of.
It's about shifting our focus from, potential job loss to the transformation of how we work.
Precisely. Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground here. The big takeaway is that AI's impact on the job market, it's different from anything we've seen before.
It's not just about industries changing, it's about the value of human skills themselves being challenged.
Right. And we talked about the CDE Innovation Prism, which helps us break down AI's impact into those three categories: cheaper, better, faster, different, and enhancing. Each one presents its own set of challenges and opportunities.
And ultimately, while this whole AI thing is going to be a huge shift, the more we understand it, the more we can approach it with this sense of agency. We're not
Yeah,
just passive bystanders, we can actively shape how this unfolds.
exactly. And that means taking action, continuously upskilling ourselves, paying attention to the bigger societal shifts, and advocating for policies that make sure AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
So, as you guys keep thinking about all this, about how AI might impact your own work and lives, think about how you can become those supercharged professionals. And even more importantly, think about what role you can play in making sure AI is a force for good in the world.
That's the big question we all need to be asking ourselves as this technology keeps evolving.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for sending in all your questions and thoughts, and keep them coming. We'll be back next week with another topic.
See you then.